You're listening to Engage on Central Florida Public Media. I'm Sharon Stone. Members of the nation's undocumented immigrant population are on edge as the Trump administration advances with promised ICE raids and sweeping deportation orders. As a candidate, Trump promised the targeting of migrants with criminal records. But children and families are equally concerned as restrictions on raids in schools and churches have been lifted by Trump. The shield of temporary protected status for Venezuelans living in America is scheduled to end, giving undocumented Venezuelans with TPS protection 60 days until they lose the right to work in the U.S. On the state level, Republican lawmakers wasted no time creating an immigration agenda more in line with what is happening federally. Laudi Campo is the Florida State Director of the Hispanic Federation based in Orange County. She joined Engage earlier today. I began the conversation by asking her to describe her reaction to hearing about the Trump administration's revocation of the temporary protective status of Venezuelan asylum seekers.
It was kind of expected things that were done, the way that it's done, and how cruel this is. This is what it's shocking, at least for me, because we're talking about people that left their countries because they were persecuted. These are individuals that followed the legal step. TPS follow the legal step. They provided documentations. They provide everything, comply with the U.S. immigration law, and yet they're now being targeted. I think this is not just unjust. It weakens the trust in our legal immigration system, making it harder for people to believe in the process. So for us, immigration is about people. When you remove the word or concept about the people, but real lives at stake, when you strip that away, the humanity from this process, you forget that this country was built by and for immigrants. So we sometimes cannot even explain it.
Is it possible for you to describe to us what will happen to people who, as you said, have followed all the rules to be here legally with TPS status as Venezuelan residents if they are forced to go back to Venezuela?
These are people, because this administration is saying that now Venezuela is probably like more safer or whatever they're trying to use. But we are talking about a country that continues to face political oppression, economic collapse, and humanitarian crisis. So when you deport these people, you're making this unsafe. You're sending them to an unsafe place. So, and that's why TPS exists for a reason. This is a reason. It's to protect people from returning to life-threatening conditions. Ending this contradicts the humanitarian values of the United States. And we have to say, in Florida, particularly in Miami-Dade, Broward, and Orange County, they have one of the largest Venezuelan communities in the United States, these three counties. So you're talking not only about putting these people in a safe way, like returning them back, or even here, because they're losing even the rights to work, because that's what they want to do, but also you put in the economy and state of this state at stake.
What are you hearing from members of Central Florida's Venezuelan community?
We're hearing from the leaders, they're organizing. These are people that are organizing, they're trying to do their best for the communities. From our community members, we hear a lot of fear. From our teachers, we're hearing that there's less attendance in school. From churches, we're hearing that people are less attending to a church. We're hearing a lot of fear, people not trying to get out of their homes. When you imagine people escaping from not being safe, feeling here the same fear, it's mind-blowing and it's so sad. So those are the things that we're hearing, but also we're trying to make sure that our communities are with the right information. So they're also calling us to see what are the steps they should do. What are the things that they should try to do? So know your rights. We're trying to get them with the right people. We're trying to explain to them how to create a family plan. So we're also trying to do that.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you more about those steps. What are they? How are you advising them?
So, Hispanic Federation and many organizations. Last week we had a meeting in our office with Congressman Maxwell Frost, and over 40 organizations were present. And all of us were trying to create this center where we don't repeat services, but we're trying to help each one of us getting the information out. And what we're trying to do with our communities is telling them a couple of things: to explore alternative immigration relief options such as asylums and other things. Also, we're letting the community know when they call us to stay informed and updated on potential legal challenges or policy reversals. We also are telling them avoid scams, seek only trusted legal services. That is very important. And also, it's hard to talk about this, but we have to prepare them for worst cases scenarios, including updating family emergency plans, knowing their rights if approached by immigrant officials, and things like that.
When you talk about these worst case scenarios, what is the worst case scenario?
If you encounter with an official, what are your rights? You have the right to remain silent. You have those. So those are information that no immigrant, nobody wants to have that interactions where we're telling them to keep calm and to be that they have the right to remain in silence, those type of things. Also, to do a family plan when you have children, like how are you gonna process that? Those are questions and things that they're done with legal advice. I'm not a lawyer, but what we do is we try to connect those families with the right resources to tell them each family is different and how they want to do this process, but it's important that they have those processes in place.
Hearing you talk about families makes me wonder if are you preparing for families to be separated? Could some be here in Florida and others have to return to Venezuela? Is that something that could really happen?
I cannot say about the future. It's so uncertain. And we don't want to put that in the mind. We hope that no, doesn't happen. What we try to do is live one day at a time and try to get the resources and get our communities prepared. So we prepare for the best and the worst, thinking that it's not going to happen. But we cannot say, because with this administration, you never know what is going to happen tomorrow. But again, we also want to give peace to our families. They have to understand that they're here, they're not alone. There's so many. You're talking with me now. I was just in a call with Casa Venezuela, one of our local nonprofits, talking to them. And again, last week we were in one meeting, and the week prior we were with over 60 other organizations. So we're together and they're not alone.
As you're moving forward with your work as an advocate, do you have any hope?
That's why we do our work. This is a hope. Our community is our hope. And every morning I wake up saying that hope is what I choose today. And the immigrant community, it's amazing. It's a community that is vibrant. They come here to work. They want to make this country better. So of course I have hope, and I trust that the leaders of this country will understand the value of immigration of this and this community. Again, it's people. It's people we're talking about. And the financial burden that these measures are making already doing in this country are immense. And we need to think about those things as well.
It's hard to keep up with all the changes that are happening within immigration enforcement on the state level, national level, what's happening here. I know that some of our audience is scared.
Mm-hmm.
What else would you like them to hear from you?
I would say, nos tenemos. There's a phrase in Spanish that says nos tenemos. We have each other. And we have to understand the majority of the people in this country They love immigration, and this country was built with immigrants. So don't lose hope. Look for the right people to get information. There's many organizations that are willing to help, and stay strong. I always tell this to my team. There's so many countries in the world, and there's so many places you can have been in this type of moment, in this moment of history, but yet you are here because there's a purpose. So let's get together and let's work. And community, you're not alone. I think that's the most important thing. You're not alone, and we will fight this together. I do have to say that because we have a helpline, right? So we have calls saying that they have seen an increase, even though that there are no massive, anything massive in Florida, but increase in where we have a group of like immigrant hubs of a presence of ICE in those areas. And also something very important that I want to point out is like last week we had one of the meetings, and there was a major hotel company that attended were with us, and they were saying that they already are seeing decrease of their staff because they're afraid. So these are people that have work permits. These are people that are doing the daily work, and they're already afraid. So they're already seeing that decrease in those areas. So we want to think about those that thinks about the economic piece. We have to think about these are people are working in construction, healthcare, hospitality, technology, and small business owners. So these are people who generate jobs or pay millions in taxes, yet they're being targeted. So I want to make sure that people understand that it's not only about the immigration that is so unfair, the laws that are here for immigration, but also the economic impact that this state will have.
Lau DiCampo is the Florida State Director of the Hispanic Federation, a nonprofit membership organization that works to advance and support Latino communities and institutions. Next, here on Engage, voices from Central Florida's immigrant communities living in turmoil. A UCF dreamer shares her fears, and an Orlando family who fled Venezuela to escape life-threatening conditions is now facing the reality of being sent back. This is Engage on Central Florida Public Media. You're listening to Engage on Central Florida Public Media. I'm Sharon Stone. Ahead on this program, we'll meet a single mother who's pursuing her collegiate dreams with the help of a childcare program at Rollins College that makes that path much more accessible. First, though, in 2017, Orlando resident Cecilia Gonzalez Herrera and her family fled Venezuela for a better life amid the political chaos of the Maduro regime. They were asylum seekers and eventually were granted TPS, that's a temporary immigration benefit, due to the dangers of living in Venezuela. The Trump administration is ending that designation this week, leaving Venezuelans 2 months until they lose their right to work in America and face deportation. With that announcement, Cecilia Gonzalez Herrera's future in Orlando is uncertain. She joined Engage earlier today to discuss the refuge she found in Central Florida and the conversations that she's having right now with her family. I started this conversation by asking her what brought them to Orlando specifically.
My family and I, we have been coming to Central Florida for two reasons as I was growing up, but we had plenty of family friends on the region. And I think what made Central Florida a decision, a very clear decision for my parents over, instead of like South Florida, which used to be like the common place for Venezuelans to go, was a sense of community. My mom always tells us that every time we came as a tourist, she felt welcome in Central Florida. She just felt like home. And when we made the decision of relocating to the U.S., it kind of was very easy. We find home in Orlando, and I get to live that sense of home and community every day. I tell friends that I am the person I am because of the city beautiful, because I have been able to thrive, to grow, and I just want to give back to this beautiful place, because at the end of the day, having home to us Venezuelans, but it has been home to a large Vietnamese community, to a large Asian community. Orlando is a very diverse community that is having always and will continue to be fighting for these people, for us, the ones that make Orlando even more beautiful.
And what was the most difficult part of acclimating to life in Central Florida?
I think the challenge at first, in my personal case, is kind of finding purpose. I came when I was just 18, and I had a sense of what my purpose was. I thought my purpose was being a communicator, telling other people's stories. And my reality was that when I came to this new country, I didn't know anyone. I did not knew where to get started. I didn't even know how to get back to school. But the people that were advocating for me were people that I didn't even, that I barely knew. There were people from Casa Venezuela, which is a grassroots organization that has been welcoming Venezuelans for over 25 years. There were all other Venezuelan leaders who says, I was there, been there, done that. Let me help you out. I believe in you. And there was this sense of, I'm not alone, what helped me find a purpose. And eventually I did start working in hospitality. I worked for a theme park for a couple of years. The pandemic hit, and I kind of had that realization moment of like, what am I really doing? Get involved in local politics, then get involved in electoral campaigning world, then fast forward to grassroots organizing work. And now I serve as a voting rights advocate for a civil rights organization. Because even when I'm not capable of voting in this country, I'm committed to ensure that every eligible voter has a fair chance to have a voice in our democracy. So yeah, I do think that the hardest part to assimilate was finding myself again.
Can you describe for me the Venezuela that you and your family left?
I left Venezuela when I was 18, so that was back in 2017. The reality is that it was already a polarized Venezuela where human rights violations were happening every day, where political opposition were persecuted and massively incarcerated. And I was just a college student. I actually went to college to pursue a career in journalism because I always aimed to like speak the truth, fight for freedom of speech, and kind of like be the voice of the voiceless, which led me to eventually get very involved in the student government in my own college, and then on the activism side of being youth in Venezuela, the protests, which did turn out violent. I remember being with my classmates in my first semester in Caracas and attending protests peacefully, just like speaking out against what the regime was doing, and having to run away knowing that some of my friends may not make it at home, some of my friends may get arrested and may get tortured. So that was the reality I was living back in 2017 when I was just 18. On the other side of the picture, there was my family back home in my hometown. My parents were small business owners with a career. My dad is an attorney, and my mom is a political science specialist back in Venezuela. And they were just pretty much part of the small private sector that were trying to provide for their families. They were very vocal against the Maduro regime and the Chavez regime at their time, which led also to persecution, to threats. And that was the life we had. I pretty much, I was born in 1999, just a few weeks after Chavez took power in February of 1999. And I haven't known a different Venezuela. All the Venezuela I have known have been under the Maduro Chavez regime. But I knew there was something different. I knew the world was not just the picture of Venezuela I had. My parents were instrumental to raise me on democratic values, knowing that what was happening in Venezuela were the first step of a tyranny. They were the first step of a dictatorship. And that kind of like always empowered me to know that there's something worth fighting for, which led me to get involved in politics early on in Venezuela. But there was a moment where my mom and my dad could not take it anymore. They were not sleeping at night. They were having like panic attacks and constant like reminders of the potential threats that were coming to them and extended to my brother and I. So in an intent to pursue safety and new opportunities, my parents made the extremely hard decision to leave everything behind and move to the U.S. after they building their own career and building like a home, having to leave everything behind, just hoping to get a sense of safety.
Did you find that safety?
I think I used to feel very safe. I think for the majority, I have been living in this country for almost 8 years now. I got the chance to dream again, to know that there's opportunities and there's a future up there for me. It wasn't simple. I remember moving to this country and like didn't really fully feel part of it. I think I went through what most immigrants go through, which is feeling that you don't belong back home anymore because you left, but didn't really feel I belong here because I didn't feel I was part of it. But I sad like luckily to my case, through the years I was able to build my own village, my own community that embraced me and welcomed me from day one. And I think they have been instrumental for me to be the professional and the human that I am today. Sadly, there is a vast majority in this country that voted for an individual and an idea of an America that is not the idea of an America that my parents came. My parents came to a welcoming, full of opportunity America. Is an America that with open arms to those that are willing to work hard and do good. But there's the other side of America that doesn't think that people like me and my family belong here. So into a few weeks, I never felt unsafe, but now I feel uncertain. And like I'm about to graduate from UCF with my bachelor's in 2 months, and it's the very first time where I have to ask myself, what am I gonna do if I'm not in this country anymore? And I know that the reality of so many other migrants that move to this country aiming to build and find a second home, and now face the reality that this second home is closing their doors to them.
When you first heard about the TPS revocations and people potentially going back to Venezuela, what did you feel in that moment?
I think there was a mix of feelings. I think there was a feeling of, I told you, but then I told you to all these Latino pro-Trumps who says, he's not coming for us, or he's only coming for the criminals. That's not going to affect my family or you. And it was one of those moments that I was like, no, I told you. To he and to his people, we immigrants, we all are the same and we're all criminals. Then there was the other side of the bag of feelings of kind of hopeless. I think I'm very optimistic of this country and the full potential that this country offers. But there was this big moment where I say, I did all of that. I came to a whole new country, learn a whole new language, assimilate, and in a blink, all my life can be turned upside down. And without skipping the fact that it's an overwhelming feeling. It's an overwhelming feeling. Thinking for a quick minute, the potential of coming back to Venezuela is scary. It is heartbreaking and it's dehumanizing to think that the U.S. is willing to send back migrants to a country where human rights are violating every day, where it has the highest rate of political prisoners in the region.
Cecilia, is it hard to take pride as a Latina woman? Are you afraid to take pride in where you're from?
No, I had never felt prouder to be Latina. I think like this. First of all, I think the Latinos, we are instrumental to the soul of this country. We have been part of the youth history from the moment the U.S. became a team. And we continue to be contributing to this country and the arts and the sports and so many different aspects. And we continue building this economy. We in Central Florida, Latinos keep running the hospitality and tourism industry. We see it after the pandemic. Latinos were the backbone of this nation. And I'm proud because I know I stand on the soul of so many others that came before me, the sacrifice that may get forgotten, but their sacrifices are being, like I carry them with a lot of pride and with a lot of responsibility. I tell people I'm capable of telling my story because I'm unapologetic and I'm not afraid. But I know that's not the reality of so many other Latinos that today they live in the shadow. And they just, again, the only crime they commit was aiming for a better life. So never been prouder to be Latina.
Cecilia Gonzalez Herrera lives in Orlando as a TPS recipient from Venezuela. Florida lawmakers passed legislation introduced during last week's special session that would ban in-state tuition for undocumented students. Governor Ron DeSantis has vowed to veto it, criticizing it as too weak on immigration reform. A day after the governor called for that special session, Republican State Senator Randy Fine filed a bill that would block some public colleges and universities from even admitting immigrants in the country without legal permission. Undocumented students are ineligible for most types of financial aid for college. Many rely on waivers for in-state tuition. UCF senior Sade is an undocumented student. She asked us not to use her last name, fearing deportation. But she joined Engage to share her story. Sade began by describing how she and her family came to the United States.
I came with my parents at the age of 4 from Mexico. We came to Orlando, and ever since I got to Orlando, I stayed here my whole life. I studied from kinder to high school and now in college.
Do you have any siblings? Yeah, no. Do you have any siblings?
Yes. Yes, I have 2 younger sisters. One is 6 years old and the other one is 10.
Okay. Were they born in Orlando then?
Yes, they are. They are American citizens.
All right. Does that make you or your family a mixed status family? Is that fair?
Yes, that's fair.
Tell me about where you are now mentally. We've got this legislation. Lawmakers in Tallahassee want legislation in place that would basically prohibit undocumented people from receiving in-state tuition at schools. What are you feeling when you hear that?
It kind of hurts me because a few months back, maybe a year or two, we went, me and a group of students were going up to Tallahassee talking to them when this issue first came up that they wanted to repeal it. And we went, like, I was one of the students that went frequently every week. And I was telling my story, telling them how I came at the age of 4 and how I study here my whole life and my intentions are to stay here. Like once I finish my college degree, like I want to be able to work with a company, a small business owner, start my own business as a marketing firm and be able to contribute back to the state, which I call it my home. And then now seeing that it might be taken away again, it hurts me because I've told other students about the scholarship and like so far, I think I put like 3 more students back into college because they didn't know about the opportunity they have. And I told them about the scholarship. I told them about the in-state tuition, and they got excited. And now, like they applied for the scholarship this time around, so they're waiting to hear back from it, and they'll be going back to college. But then, if this thing happens, if they repeal in-state tuition, they wouldn't. I feel like it'll make it harder for them because they will have to pay more because it's like in-state tuition and out-of-state tuition is like triple the amount.
Mm-hmm. If
Yeah,
this
so
were
it
to
makes it
happen,
harder.
undocumented people would be required to pay that international student rate.
Yes.
How would a change like that potentially impact you? Could you continue? Could you pay for school?
Yeah, it will make it harder because right now I'm taking 4 classes. And if that does happen, like I can imagine a lot of people are going to be taking maybe 1 or 2 semester because they're going to have to will have to work more in order to afford these classes.
Tell me why getting a college degree is so important to you.
Well, it's proven that a person who gets a college degree earns more than just a high school diploma, but also from my family where I come from, it's always like keep studying so you don't have to be doing hard labor in the sun. And I see my parent, like especially my dad, he be working construction and it's cold or it's raining or it's really hot and he's out there. So a college degree is important for me because I'd be able to not work in the hot sun, but be able to provide better for my family in a different type of job. I'm doing marketing, so it'll be from like company work, and I'll be able to provide a better life for them. But there's also a lot of students doing nursing, doctors, and this could also impact Florida because everyone needs doctors, nurses, teachers. And if students are not able to get this degree, then it's making harder for them. So how is Florida going to get those teachers or nurses?
They are considering taking it a step further to flat out not allow undocumented students to attend some Florida public universities. what goes through your head hearing that? What would the impact be?
Well, that's just taking everything away. Like maybe if they take out in-state tuition, like it'll be harder, but I feel like some students will still push through it. They'll be taking one class and working, but if they just don't allow dreamers to go to college in Florida, then that's just, I feel like it's gonna hurt the economy. Like I said, a lot of these people go to college and then start their lives here. They contribute back to the Florida's economy.
What's your biggest concern right now?
My biggest concern right now would be the students that are currently in college, almost about to be done or just starting, and those who's maybe like they wanted to go to college but didn't see how to, and they were able to find resources to attend, and now it's like that dream that they saw so close is now getting pulled away from them. I think that's like the biggest concern right now, the students that got their hopes up.
And besides the legislation we've been talking about impacting the cost of school, there's just a lot going on when it comes to changing immigration policies, federal level, state level. How is that impacting you, your family, your loved ones?
I think it's creating fear. It's definitely affecting people's lives. People don't want to go out as much. They're scared to drop off their kids. Some I'm not even sure if they have a future here. And I mean, I think when was it when if a year ago when they first passed an immigration law that they were gonna be stopping undocumented, like a lot of people like went outside Florida and their economy kind of fell because a lot of them were construction workers or people who work in the fields. And I feel like if people are scared, that might happen again. If their kids don't have a future here, then what's the point of them staying?
And I want to know more about you and when you're set to graduate and what's next for you. And honestly, are you confident that that will happen now?
I'm supposed to graduate in May of 2025 this year. I'm taking my final classes. Honestly, I already had a lot in my plate with my classes, and then this is like a lot of stress. It's like you can see like the end of the tunnel, but at the same time, like now something's blocking it, and you're not even sure if I'm gonna be able to finish, if like what's gonna happen. I really don't know what's gonna happen. I hope I'm able to finish, and I hope that other students are able to attend college as well, have the same opportunity I did. I think it's all about having faith and not giving up. People calling their representatives, letting them know how important this bill is for us to not repeal in-state tuition and keep allowing dreamers to attend college and university because it makes an impact. I mean, if they take it away, those students, Florida is going to lose money because those students around, I think it was like 15 million, they're going to be losing because those students are not going to attend college anymore. And then later on they're going to see more damage because the people that did nursing, teachers, all of them, they're not going to have as many teachers or nurses or doctors here.
You actually just used the word hope to me, and that made me wonder if anything, what, if anything, is giving you hope right now?
Um, right now, I think the thing that's giving me hope is that when we went up to Tallahassee last year and we were telling our stories and talking to senators and representatives up there, and they were able to put a face to this bill. We were able to make a change. So I still have hope in that. I still have hope that our stories are strong, and if we are able to reach our representatives or senators of like our district, and we're able to tell them, hey, like we've been studying here, we want to contribute back, like this is our home. Like some of my friends don't even know Spanish anymore. They were raised here. So I think that's what gives me hope that they can be more human and hear our stories and be able to connect with us.
That was UCF senior Sere, an undocumented student. Coming up, Rollins College charts a course to overcome a barrier to education many student parents face. All of our shows are available on demand at cfpublic.org. You are listening to Engage on Central Florida Public Media. You're listening to Engage on Central Florida Public Media. I'm Sharon Stone. Single mother Shanae Green thought she might find a career in the U.S. Air Force, but the schedule that came along with it put her in a situation where reliable childcare simply wasn't an option. She needed a new path forward to create a sustainable future for herself and her daughter. She enrolled at Rollins College, deciding that investing in higher education was a way to increase her earning potential and improve her family's quality of life. Adult learners also experience that barrier of childcare in completing their degrees. Starting this fall, Rollins will offer free childcare to support student parents enrolled in their adult evening program at the Hamilton Holt School. Lauren Smith is Dean of the Hamilton Holt School of Professional Advancement and Graduate Studies at Rollins. She joined Engage to discuss what makes this evening educare program different. Let's begin, though, with Shanae and how she transitioned out of the military and into college.
Well, when I joined, I never planned on staying in for 20 years, which, is how you get your retirement. I was like, I can't do this. But I did make it. My first enlistment was 6 years. I tried to get out early because of my daughter. I was having issues with childcare then, honestly. So I tried to get out early, but then circumstances and money, I had to continue on through my full enlistment. So when it was time for me to actually separate, there's a program called Skills Bridge that allows you to do an internship during your last 6 months of enlistment. So I did that. So I was able to still get my military check while working on the civilian side in hopes of getting a job.
I want to talk to you about where you are now in Orlando,
Mm-hmm.
but if you could just take me back for a moment, can you describe to me what it felt like being a mom juggling military and trying to figure it all out and struggling with childcare? Like, how did you feel just on a daily basis?
I said the big word is stress, right? Anxiety, all those big words that we use these days, especially as a first-time mom. Like, I was a new mom. I wasn't near my family, so I didn't have support. I didn't have the things you would usually have when you first have a child. So I had to rely on strangers to watch my child, which is very scary, especially when you're hearing a lot of like crazy stories about things happening in childcare facilities and stuff. So that was hard. It was really tough. I cried a lot. But then she turned like 2 and I was like, take her, anybody. But no, it was tough. It was stressful trying to find childcare, even in that situation. They had some providers, but not enough. So I put myself on a list for after hours care because my job in the military was 24/7 operations. So I worked 12-hour shifts, 3 days on, 2 days off. So I would work weekends too. And childcare that they provided was only 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then so I had to pay somebody else to watch her. Really just people I knew. They had their families were there, thank God. And I paid them to watch her after those after hours.
Just hearing you describe the hours, it's hard to even follow. So I don't even know how it felt to live it.
Yeah, it's a lot. It was childcare was tough, which is why I had to get out. I didn't really have a choice.
So tell me about where you are now. You're at Rollins.
Yes.
And one of the first, I believe it was the first project you encountered was what could you do to make the world a better place?
I actually put 24-hour childcare facilities because I think it better aligns with today's working world, the family life. So that was actually kind of my pitch. So then the Holt program or the Educare program came out, and I was like, what? Who was listening to me? Look at God. But yeah, it was kind of funny to me. I didn't know if it was already in the works, but I didn't care as long as it was there for me. As soon as I got the email, I jumped on it.
Lauren Smith, if I could bring you into the conversation now and talk a bit more about that EduCare program that we were mentioning. So starting this fall, Rollins is offering free childcare for students enrolled in adult evening programs. I want to know what you saw happening at campus, what led to the creation of this.
Well, so the Hamilton Holt School of Professional Advancement and Graduate Studies was designed to provide the high quality education that Rollins is well known for to working adults. So both the graduate students and the undergraduate students, typically working, they often have parents. In fact, they're often parents. In fact, 1 in 3 graduate students are parents too, and 1 in 4 undergraduate students are parents. So those are big numbers. But we knew that one of the problems was access to childcare, and not just access to some childcare, but good childcare. I mean, the same way we that Rollins feels we should be providing high quality education to the whole community through Rollins, through the whole programs. But we also think that the daycare that we provide is high quality, and that our students deserve that. Their children deserve that. So it's a fairly heavy lift. So we worked on it for a while, but we found a donor to provide the support so that we can do that for our students.
Florida law requires a 1 to 25 staff to child ratio, but this EduCare program at Rollins, that ratio is 1 to 6.
Yes, and there's no screen time. Hume House is one of the best childcare providers in Central Florida. So they're providing that same quality. They're helping their students with homework. They're helping students with, they're working on projects with students. It's all meant to be educational. A lot of the student parents I've met have come back to school because they want to help their families and their kids, right? They want to provide a better future for them. So we thought it was important for that reason as well, because it aligns with the values of our student parents, I think, to have really high quality childcare available to them.
And Shanae, I know that your daughter is enrolled in this program. Have you seen it impact her?
Yeah, my daughter, she absolutely loves it. Every time I'm like, okay, we're going to go see Miss Lori, she's like, yay. I was like, you want to come home? No. So when I come to pick her up, she always hides from me. And I'm like, okay, but we got to leave eventually. So and she loves her iPad. I've seen her throw her iPad to the side and jump out the car to run in there, which, I don't know if you have kids, but they're like glued to those things. So usually when I tell her to put it down, it's like, oh, I don't want to, it's always an excuse. 5 more minutes, please. But it's a very easy ask when it comes to going to the aftercare. Yes, for sure.
How do you feel, Lauren, hearing Shanae describe the fact that her daughter put down the screen willingly after going to this program at Rollins?
Oh, that makes me really happy. Kids of college graduates are more likely to go to college, and they're more likely to have better health outcomes, and the parents and the children are more likely to live longer. She's having such a good experience on campus, right? That likelihood is going up, right? She likes it here. She's going to want to go to college eventually. She's going to have those good memories and that basis.
Yeah, and I'll just add that they do assessments at her school. In her last assessment, she didn't do as great in her reading as she should have, or as I would have liked. And so we've been going over her vocabulary words. And then I mentioned it to the staff, to Ms. Lori, and we had made up a game at home to play to help with her reading. But then they took it and they made more games, and they made it fun. They played 2 or 3 other games. So it's an extension of me, because on 3 days out of the week, I go to class. So I don't have that time to sit with her across the table and help her with her homework like I normally would, which sucks. But then it's nice to know that you have that support.
Let me ask you about your future, Shanae. Once you're done you graduate in the fall, is correct?
December 2025.
All right. Almost there, getting there. What is your plan?
That's a good question, because I contemplated graduate school. which hurts a little to think about. But I think it's probably best just to go straight into graduate school. So I'll probably apply at Rollins and see what happens.
The goals that we're talking about, do you think that the end game would be obtainable for you without this program, this childcare support that you have now?
Absolutely not. Like, absolutely not. It takes a village to raise a child. And the fact that I'm not near my family and my support system, I've been able to rely on them partially. You know, they don't pick her up from school and stuff, but it is, I would say, a weight lifted. It feels like hope, like progress. And then she's not seeing me super stressed out like I used to be, because I'm ripping and running trying to figure out somebody reliable to watch her. I can focus on my school now because I know she's in good hands. You know, and it's just a good feeling. I cannot say enough. Like, I'm trying not to like tear up, but I cannot say enough when there's people who come into my life and take care of my child the way that I would, or like, there's so much love in that educare program. Like, Miss Lori's amazing. She, like, it feels like extended family. And to be able to drop her off and feel like she's safe is, honestly, I don't have words, but.
That was Shanae Green, a mother and Rollins College student, and Lauren Smith, Dean of the Hamilton Holt School of Professional Advancement and Graduate Studies at Rollins. That's all for today's edition of Engage. We're back Thursday at 3 o'clock. If you miss any part of the show today, you can always subscribe to the Engage podcast and listen whenever it's convenient for you. The program will be available on demand at cfpublic.org. I'm Sharon Stone. Thank you for joining us. All Things Considered is coming up right after NPR News.